My instinct was to not show up today.
Heat.
The conversations aren't real.
You want to talk about the conversation we just had?
Yeah, we might as well.
Welcome back to
Buckle up, baby.
episode 32. So we had a long pregame today, Michael. Didn't we?
We did.
In the spirit of that conversation, why don't you go ahead?
Ami and I talked about our feelings for a little while. I don't know, where do we start? I sent Ami a was it a passive aggressive text last night? I think it was pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were coming in hot.
I came in hot. We get some feedback that we interrupt each other. Some people think Ami interrupts more than I do. And we joked about it before with like the listening stuff. But for a number of reasons, just last night I was editing the episode, just watching, our 30th hour of talking, and it just like really got under my skin. And so I said, Ami, the interrupting is real. You got to watch the episodes and hear how you sound, because this isn't a conversation. You want to do Trump? What do you want to? The conversations aren't real.
I hear you. I will say that embarking on creative endeavors and partnering up to do these things always reach moments of tension and friction.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you get good stuff. It's out of that friction. That's how you get good stuff. Heat, energy, and honesty. And the trick to good creative endeavors is trust and respect. Not a lot of affection, but trust and respect. With the band, I used to be asked a lot, like, how does it work? And you always trust and respect. Even if you disagree, you have trust that everyone's got the best intentions, and they're always coming from a good place, even if their execution, even if something can come in and be interpreted harshly or felt harshly, if you assume positive intent, it's all for legitimate reasons. So I would say all the feedback's important. And if there's too much interrupting, that comes with, I think, doing things more and getting better at the podcast format. We also don't wear headphones, which I've heard. I mean, we don't have to. I don't really like to. But if you're wearing headphones and someone's audio and someone's voice is right in your head, you tend to interrupt less. Joe Rogan talks about that a lot. He makes everyone wear headphones always.
He looks amazing in headphones. If I had a head like him.
Yeah, so he said, I don't like not having headphones because there's too much interruption. And if you watch Schultz Flagrant versus his episode, I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
So
They also have the lav mics now.
I know, which I find interesting.
Yeah. Well, remember I said last time they have these like crazy long-armed things. Mm-hmm. They're like absurd anyway.
They've gotten these funny critiques about their new setup and all that. Some people like the nerds of podcast world are like writing reviews on that. Everyone's talking about it in the podcast world. But back to the main point for 1 second, just to wrap this point up. So Michael brought up some things that were aggravating to me, and rather than get defensive, I heard him. And I rolled my eyes when he turned away. No. And I just think having hard conversations is a skill and takes a certain amount of maturity. So I'm glad you brought it up to me.
My instinct was to not show up today. That was definitely my instinct. So, I came. We talked. We talked. It was hard.
You were gonna not show up today?
I mean, I was.
You're gonna find a way.
I was just gonna ghost you. Yeah, I was gonna be like, I'm not feeling well or something. Like my instinct was definitely to like ignore it and like let it pass.
Even after I brought up recording today?
No. I mean, I decided to not do that. It would have been a lot easier to just not talk about it.
Right, I was feeling that. I'm like, here, where's the text? Like, let's just do it tomorrow or some other day or whatever. I was like, where's the text coming? I was waiting.
Yeah, no, these things you got to, you can't put them off.
Yeah.
If there's something difficult to do, you just got to do it. My friend Most Optimist has great advice. He said when you're moving out, move the heaviest thing first. Because like you're not gonna have energy for it at the end of the day. Just do it. Get the most difficult thing out of the way, and then move on.
Was he talking about actually moving out or have hard
No,
conversations?
Like generally, if you have things to do the most difficult thing one first.
That's good.
Like. Yeah, so like you just gotta like if we weren't gonna do it today, when were we gonna do it? You know?
Yeah, and then it's not fresh.
Yeah.
But what was the issue besides?
I think the issue was it's rare that two friends. Every friend, you have a dynamic with every friend conversationally, like where you're more of the audience, you're more of the performer, you're more the listener, you're more the talker, whatever it is, and it's usually just is what it is. But now that we're talking intentionally for over an hour a week, plus everything else, like those things like come to the surface more. So thinking like some of the dynamics we have off mic are starting to bother me, which is fine if I just don't want to show up, but I want to do this for hundreds of episodes. So we gotta if it's bothering me, we gotta figure it out, because otherwise it's not gonna have longevity.
It reminds me of like when people started becoming roommates post high school.
Yes.
And it's like everyone's got a dynamic. Everybody, with every single individual, you have a dynamic, you have an understanding, and it's all good. Then you start to see other sides of them when you enter new context.
Right.
So someone you thought was fine as a classmate and a hang is now your roommate, and things can turn into just more intense spaces. They could turn in more intense ways. You can get on each other's throats in ways you never thought were there. Or you travel, and in the beginning it's like, but then by the end you're like, dude, can you not sit on my bed? And you're like, whoa. You just see other sides of people. So not everyone you can hang with at a restaurant is someone you could room with. Not everybody you can room with is someone you could travel with. Not everyone you could travel with is someone you can marry. It's just different combinations. And not everyone you could just hang with and be buds with, you could do a podcast with. So it takes a rare combination. So we start to notice those things, and we address them, and we speak openly about them. And you're a dick. But no, for real. See, I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. It's fair. You got to be able to have the conversation. It's not that tough. It's just like
no. I think you did a good job listening and taking it in and digesting it. And I'm glad we talked.
Yeah.
I feel better.
Yeah, feel better.
Yeah. Also, I don't want to I was like walking around being annoyed at you, and I'm like, I don't want to be annoyed at a friend of mine. Like that sucks. Also.
Yeah, I would cancel this podcast in a heartbeat if it meant anything like that shit. Get a new co-host. Also, we were coming off a lot of me shit, to be fair, too. I could see
coming off of VCon.
And all that crap. And I do, as a shortcoming or something to watch out for, we all have our things. And I get, like, self-involved. And, like, I'm putting out, I'm trying to build it. We're trying to build, like, audiences on social media. And you're putting out stuff constantly. And it's always like, look at this, check this out. And you're always very, very good at being organically curious and encouraging and supportive. And I could probably do a better job when it comes to your stuff at returning the favor.
Fair enough. I'd appreciate it.
You know?
Coming off of VCon wasn't the time to bring it up, because it was like literally a celebration of you. And as it should be.
Right.
But it was probably mixed up with that a little bit.
I'm just saying everything will have its lingering effects or influences, and it's more about like what happens afterwards. Like I had said something to you that like you're like I was still on that trip, and you were finally talking about something to do with you, like getting involved. Something was of yours was featured somewhere. You mentioned to me.
Yeah, it was in the Milk Road, a crypto newsletter. What
is that? Tell the folks.
This is weird.
Well, we did speak about it, but honestly, maybe I wasn't listening the first time.
You know the guy Sean Puri? He does the My First Million podcast.
Yes.
He's a really interesting guy. He has sort of put all his energy into becoming like a Web3 content media company. So he has a daily newsletter called The Milk Road. I think it's based on the Silk Road. I think that's the name. And he puts out like these bullet pointed, funny little digests of everything that happened the day before in crypto. And when I read that, that's how I decided to do my newsletter, because I was like, this is a pleasure to open up. Like, it's a delight to read this in the morning. I look forward to it and all that. What am I doing wrong here? So yeah, and it's growing. It's like a big deal in the crypto space, as much as anything is.
It's in the written form or video?
Yeah, no, it's right now it's a written newsletter, which is like when people write, it's like they put letters together and make words and sentences, and then
There's no pictures.
no pictures. Just well, letters are like pictures.
So pictures of letters that are English?
Yeah, it's like a picture of a letter, right? And then if you put enough of those pictures together, you get a word.
That's the next thing.
It's crazy. It's like old but new. It's cool.
Reading. But I'm saying you get on the newsletter by signing up. You have to actively sign up to receive his updates.
You sign up. Yeah. How else would you do it?
I never do this.
Yeah, you put your email address in, and then it comes to your inbox every morning. Yeah, and then you read it, and then you learn a thing.
But he's building his audience this way, is my question. By people just proactively getting on board.
Well, I'm trying to learn from how he's doing, but yeah, he sends out a really interesting newsletter. That's how it starts. He's really good at shamelessly pushing, I'm trying to build a 1 million subscriber newsletter, and I want you to forward this to a friend and share it on Twitter and Facebook. Please do that. Like, shameless. And then they have a referral program that is like, this email platform that we're using is like famous for, like, you can help friends sign up or whatever, which I don't think really works that well. But
remind me his name again, full
I think
name?
it's Sean Puri, Shaan Pure.
Because I've seen my first million on TikTok. I've seen videos of that.
I think he's Indian, the Indian guy,
Okay.
the dark skinned guy.
Does he do the All In stuff too?
I don't
Or is
know
that a
what that
different
is.
guy? All In podcast? You've told me about it, All In.
Oh, about the finance guys?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it. I don't
It's a
think
different
so.
guy.
It's a different guy. Yeah.
My first million. I've definitely seen stuff where they cover like chess.com and they've covered a bunch of things of how people did it. But
Yeah.
I don't remember an Indian guy. I remember somebody else. And it was like a podcast.
There's a
form.
white guy and an Indian
Okay.
guy.
So maybe I've seen
Yeah.
both.
He's just like a very savvy guy.
And he's he's building this base by getting people to proactively sign up, but they share an article that's public. Like I could find it if I search for it, even though I'm not on the email chain.
I think every email gets published to a website as well. So if you put a link to it, you can go see that day's email in a website form also. But mostly what you do is like he's like, if you tweet out a link to subscribe and send me a screenshot of it, I'll enter you into a contest to win 1 Ethereum or something. Like, he'll do things like that.
So he's incentivizing the word of mouth.
Yeah, so that's like his thing. Or like he says, I put together a PDF of what 10 crypto billionaires personally told me they're investing in right now. If you share this on Facebook and send me the whatever, I'll send you the PDF.
And this is how you've been repeatedly early to things, by being in these spaces. Is it? Because like sometimes you're like, I'm aware of certain trends.
This is a good example of, like, I think in 5 years, a lot of people will know this guy's name, and a lot of people. I think he's gonna have. He said today he's gonna have $100 million company. This newsletter is gonna be worth $100 million. I don't think he's crazy, because I think when crypto is doing well, everybody wants to get in on it. And what's great about crypto newsletters is you think, if I subscribe to it, maybe in some form or another, I'll find out about something early and I'll make $100,000. So why not give him my email address and let it come to my inbox? That's like the magic of a crypto newsletter. But yeah, I think I'm early on this. I think it's going to be a big deal.
And what happened with something you wrote?
So we were going to VCon, and I was trying to get someone to pay me to write an article about it so it could like cover the hotel. So I reached out to them. Said, hey, I'm Michael Harris Weber. I'm a screenwriter. I'm going to this convention. I think it's going to be this historic thing.
You reached out to this newsletter?
To the guy who wrote it. Yeah, to Sean. And I was like, would you be interested in like including a link or something? I could write it for you guys if you want. And then his producer, Ben Levy, wrote back to me, hey, Michael, I got your email. I'm a really big fan of your work. I saw 500 Days of Summer. My friend actually has a huge crush on Zooey Deschanel. Tell me what you have in mind. And if you Google Michael Harris Weber screenwriter, the guy who wrote 500 Days of Summer is named Michael Harris Weber.
I remember this because you told me this.
So I do that sometimes. I let people make that mistake because I know they're gonna do that, and then I go, "Hey, I'm actually another Michael Weber, but now that we're talking, let's talk." And it's happened like a couple times.
You catch them on the faux pas, and there you go.
And yeah, and they're like, yeah, and they're a little embarrassed. It's good. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we were talking back and forth, and he was basically like, we're really curious to do something like this. Send me all the crypto stuff you've written. And I was like, well, I don't have any crypto stuff. I have fiction and this and screenplays and stuff. And
This was Sean directly responding?
No, this was his like producer Ben. And I'm like, he's like, what are you looking for? I'm like, I'm just looking for a few $100. He's like, great, send me your samples. I sent them to him, and I never heard back from him. And then I think the day before VCon, he's like, hey man, totally forgot about this. Are you still at the convention? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, send me all your thoughts. So I sent them to him, and then they put my thoughts in the newsletter, like along with some other like crypto investors. They're like, here's what Michael has to say about it, and here's him on Twitter, which is cool.
I didn't get that at all when you told me that the first time.
What did you think when I told you? Or you didn't? It didn't.
I don't even know. Maybe I was distracted. Maybe you dropped out on the phone, or maybe you said it in sort of passing, and I was thinking NFT, NYC. Was it on the pod we spoke about it?
So I told Ami the first time I told him that story, his response was, do you think I should go as Gary Vaynerchuk to NFC NYC? Just totally didn't absorb it. What would you ask?
I have loud thoughts. I talk to myself.
Yeah, so do I.
You ever talk out loud? Did I catch you doing that once?
I talk, yeah.
So I'll be like in my head. And people who are like me, people who, musicians, comedians, whatever. My dad does it. My brother does it.
I do the characters I'm writing. I do their voices. I'll talk in like a British accent.
Exactly.
A lot. Yeah.
And I won't hear things. Like I don't. And my wife gets annoyed about it too. But I'll be like, I'll just be in this space. And sometimes you'll think I'm there. But it's like in that movie, Click.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's the case, and I might have missed it, or sometimes I just hear something, I go, oh, and I think of something, and it just consumes my head.
No, I do that too. I don't know that I do it because no one's telling me.
Yeah.
A friend of mine once told me, he's like, I was like, you want to get together? This was in high school. I was like, you want to get together or something? Meet in the city. He's like, no, I'm actually sitting Shiva this week for my grandparents. And I'm like, oh my God, man, I'm so sorry. He's like, yeah, I told you last week. I was like, my grandparents died, and you were like, oh, that's cool, man.
So that's a little different probably than what happened when you told me this. I think in this case, I might have heard what you said, but maybe you kind of underplayed it, and I did. I overplay stuff. I get excited, and I try to calm myself down, and you'll try to like casually mention something sometimes. I'm not blaming you. All I'm saying is I probably heard it and thought it was like, oh, cool, but I didn't really connect how big of a deal it was for you.
Right.
Which it was. There was this whole backstory of pursuit of trying to get this. In my mind, I thought you were going to VCon and you were going to write something and cover it, but I didn't quite understand the thread to this world that you had been really following and had your sort of sights on it. Because I'm personally very out on my sleeve, like why I'm there and what I plan to do, and I'm talking about myself too much, and you don't talk about yourself as maybe enough. Or I'm not blaming you, but maybe I am.
No, it's fair.
If you're not, it's just different styles and temperaments. But I'm always like, oh yeah, and hopefully I'm going to be able to do that. I don't talk about it to everybody, but to people who are good listeners and interested, I'm telling them. And it's not like I wasn't interested, but maybe I didn't stick to me exactly what you were telling me.
Yeah.
And again,
well, I mean, because the truth is, in compared to what you did at VCon, it truly isn't a big deal. I got like 3 like big crypto people followed me on Twitter. Like it, not a lot came from it, but it's a big deal in the sense of like,
it's a win.
It's a win. I tried, and I tried with a fair amount of effort. Not that hard, but I actually tried, and like it paid off like immediately. And it was like we talk about here. It came from what we talk about.
Right.
It was like shoot your shot, see what happens, try a couple of things, and who knows where it's going to lead.
It sounded like it also is an example of you established rapport with somebody that you once were an admirer of, and now have elevated it to a little bit more of a collegial status in which you've done. Everyone's like chicken or egg. How do you get that first thing? How do you get through the door? So now you've put a wedge in the door.
Yeah, and what's cool about this, especially, is like I said, like I sort of get in on these things like not super early, but earlier than others. So like I have this guy's email address now just because he only has 25,000 subscribers. When he has 1 million subscribers, you're not gonna be able to get in touch with this guy, which is cool.
And the next guy who says, hey, send me some of the stuff you've done, this just gives you one extra thing you've done.
Right.
So it's more than the micro win of that. It's the macro of like being able to leverage this now to the next thing. And then eventually you're building something pretty significant.
Right.
You know? So I think that's a big deal. Much bigger deal than you might even realize.
Right.
Not how many followers did you get from it. Because a lot of times, some of the things we talk about is like we're always looking at things. I think we were talking about this with the guy who was filming at VCon. We look at everything so transactionally. Well, I have to get this guy to fund this thing in order to make this movie. How do I get that to happen? And it's sort of like you have to do the thing, figure out a way to do the things first, and then the buzz follows, and then the success follows, and then the things follow based on output. So the challenge is how to figure out how to efficiently get stuff out there without breaking the bank, without going into your pockets, but figuring out how to be resourceful enough to make these things happen. Because in order for things to happen and to get an audience, you have to make something. In order to make something, you have to have somebody pay for it. In order to get somebody to pay for it, you have to build an audience. So it's this constant, where do you start, chicken or egg thing.
Yeah.
So you now have a chicken.
Right. Which is why I have to finish this VCon piece, but also making it less, more like broadly about NFTs. But anyway, I just want to finish it just so I have it, and then follow your advice, like you said. Actually, then proactively be like, "Hey Ben, I finished this thing. Check it out. Hey Variety. Hey whoever. Here's a piece. I know you're not going to publish it, but if you like the writing, let's be in touch."
There's also something very satisfying about making something that you know has legs somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just speculation. I'll make this thing and hopefully someone will read it. Like you were mission driven and you knew you had an outlet for whatever you were going to do here to get it to some people that it could add value to.
Right.
That's big. You know, I'm saying that's satisfying when it works, because you're always, when you're creating or writing or anything, any song one person makes, any article, you like, it's very nice for it to find some sort of home. That's like a good, gratifying feeling.
Yeah, and I think it's easier to work on stuff when you know there's like a 1% chance it could go somewhere.
Yeah, it's motivating because it's very hard. It's very easy to be reactive when you have stuff. Hey, can you write this thing for my publication? Then you're on it. Right. But when you have to sort of manufacture that drive, that's challenging.
Right. Yeah.
Props.
Thanks.
Very cool.
Thank you.
That's really cool. I am ecstatic for you. I really am, though. Now that I understand that, because I'm not in the newsletter world at all. I'll be.
It's a little bit shocking how little understanding you have of it. It's like it's a pretty.
I know about like email. I know what it is conceptually, email lists and all the thing, but that's the kind of stuff I don't consume at all.
But don't you, like, the Daily Wire doesn't have a thing? You don't read anything. You don't read articles and.
On Twitter, I'll read a little bit of an article, but most of my media is consumed through the visual. Mm-hmm. Just being honest, like I'll read. I read some nonfiction books here and there. I actually have been needing a new book to sit with for a while. I like having that on downtime, just to like sit with a book. It took me like 2.5 years to finish Atlas Shrugged. Me, I'm just saying at my pace. Like that's how I read. I didn't read in high school. Didn't read in college. I'm a slow reader, and I'm much more. My appetite is much more for like little clips, small things, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. When I come across articles, if I don't subscribe to New York Times, like I get the first couple things, I'm like, forget it. But I'm not in that space that maybe you're in, which is, I guess, articles and write-ups and things. It's not the. I'm not on that media.
Yeah.
So much.
I guess I'm wondering if that makes me special. I feel like a lot of people are. I mean, newsletters are like, you know Substack, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, I think they just fail to raise money, so that maybe it's not as big as they think it is. But writers leaving newspapers and starting their own newsletter is like a really big trend right now.
Interesting.
So like if you work for the New York Times, they'll pay you. Let's say you're a celebrity. Let's say you're a celebrity columnist. I don't know, whatever. Let's say you'll get paid $300,000 a year by the New York Times. But if you leave the New York Times and start, Substack is Patreon for newsletters. Mm-hmm. You start a Patreon for newsletters.
When you say newsletter, is that synonymous with blog?
That is where blogs have now gone. Instead of writing a blog post, you'll write a blog post and send it directly to someone's inbox. That's all it is.
But what is a vlog? I'm seeing these kids with the V too.
And
I sound like a boomer. Is that a blog? What is the internet?
And then
it's a personalized. You're building an audience that way.
The difference is though you can get paid subscribers. So you'll say I have two tiers, a free tier and a paid tier.
Mm-hmm.
For the free tier, you'll get one newsletter every 2 weeks. For the paid for $5 a month, you'll get one every day. So instead of going to NewYorkTimes.com and clicking on like Ross Douthat's column, I'll just pay Ross Douthat $5 a month and he'll send me awesome stuff. And instead of making $300,000 a year getting paid by the Times, he'll make like $1 million a year because that's how much he's really worth. Like that's how you see what your value is.
So for me, I think it's a semantics thing. Like I know that people build up a blog and have a following of people who read this guy's blog, independent from a mainstream legacy publication.
Yeah.
And newsletters is just a way to cultivate that community. And what you're saying is that Substack is like an aggregator of various newsletter creators, people who built, but it's all through the app, right? You have followers on Substack.
That's exactly it. The difference is that you own the email addresses through Substack. So it's not like Facebook it's not like Instagram where if I have followers on Instagram, I can't contact them any other way than through Instagram. With Substack, they're just a broker. They say, hey, you want to sign up for this guy's address? Give him your email and we'll facilitate it.
How do they make money?
They take a cut of every subscription, but if Matt Taibbi or Ross Douthat or whoever wanted to leave, he could take all of his readers with him. So the question about Substack is at a certain point, they become sort of valueless because the bigger you get on Substack, the more valuable it is for you to leave and fuck Substack.
Is it an interface thing? People like reading on Substack the way they feature your work?
No. I mean that's the problem with Substack. It's just they're a good service that allows you to easily sign up and receive the email.
As opposed to going to some other person's random Joe Schmo website, put your email in, and then you'll get their thing. You go to Substack, and it's like, oh, Matt Taibbi, this guy,
and you can have
Barry Weiss.
10 Substacks. And now they have an app you could read them all in one place. But,
okay, so service for the consumer is a little better.
Yeah, it's easy for the consumers. The question is it worth 20% of your revenue as a writer? Like, if you're making $1 million a year, do you want to pay $200,000 to Substack to like help you collect email addresses? I don't know.
They have to offer something a little more proprietary to the the creator,
and they can't figure it out. So they're trying to say, well, we don't just bring you your existing readers. We help you find new readers, but it's not really true.
Interesting. So this is all interesting to me because this is the writer's world. We spend a lot of time talking about the content creator world, and that's like videos and maybe songs like that and like that kind of media.
Mm-hmm.
That's the stuff I do. And what you're talking about is all very parallel. Like you have these, you want to get a song on a big TV show. Like you want to get your article in a big publication. It's like the publication has eyes on it. So you want your words there. But with time, just like every other sub-industry, it sounds like and we talked about this when we talked about like Crystal and Cigar and the way the podcast world has disrupted legacy news media, in terms of written media, Substack, newsletters, blogs, which were the sort of fetal stages of that, have disrupted that.
Yeah, I guess I'm surprised to know about it because like Cigar, all these people all have Substacks.
I did not discover them until they showed up on YouTube. Or Rogan.
Right, but they all...
You did.
In addition, like Cigar and JD has a Substack. Everyone has
I have never read anything from any of these people.
Yeah, neither have I, but I know that they're on. I guess you just don't pay attention.
These are that's the spaces online that you frequent.
I guess no, I just hear him talking about it. He's like, thanks for listening to this episode. Catch me on Substack. Catch me on Patreon. Like, they just say it.
Oh, I'm a clips guy.
That's also a thing.
100%. You are you listen to full length everything.
I do, yeah.
And I don't.
I do. That's a problem I have actually. I think
mine is
for me to not listen to a whole episode.
Mine might be a problem. The opposite end. I'm only doing clips.
Yeah, you get like that. I like listening to like a whole episode of like Andrew Schultz because like you get a sense for like the project.
100%.
The dynamic between the hosts.
You like listening to the whole album, and I'm like a singles guy.
Yeah, I guess so. But I would think you'd find it interesting because I listen to it for the people. Like I like to know that Akash and Schultz, like there's something weird going on. Or like with Impulsive, like if you listen to the whole thing, you catch that like Logan Paul doesn't really think the co-host is a great comedian. Like he'll
George?
yeah, be like those are things you catch when you.
I don't think you should. I think your way is the right way. I'll tell you why. Because I was going to say, where do you find the time to sit for 3 hours on a Flagrant 2?
I don't sit and watch it. I listen while I do other stuff.
You listen to Flagrant 2?
I'll have I listen to podcasts usually, but with that one specifically, I think they're very visual. So I'll keep YouTube on in the background, and while I'm doing other stuff.
This is wise. I will tell you why.
While I cut a reel, if I have like we're talking about like in between taking a shit and washing your hands, like if I have 5 seconds, I'll hit play, listen, and then hit pause
and move things along.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I was thinking about this a lot. How to better waste my time. I've been asking myself. Because there's different ways to waste time. And I was going to tell you, Michael, I don't have the time to watch the whole Tim Dillon episode for 2 hours or the whole Flagrant 2. I saw great clips of it. And if it's somebody I'm really interested in, like there was a few Rogan episodes I watched the whole thing. Because I'm like, I really want to get the experience. So I like committed and worked my way through pretty much. But even most of those, sometimes I'll make it halfway. Like one of the Tim Dillon episodes with Gomez where they talk about the LA podcast scene. I wanted to see how they get to that point, and I'm still halfway through. It takes me a long time.
Yeah.
But most of the time, I'm doing it the way which I think is probably much more unhealthy and much less enriching, which is because I'll say I don't have the time, and then I'll probably for the same amount of hours, if not more, watch clips of absolute meaningless nothingness.
And you're also watching old clips from like 2017 this service, yeah. Like you probably
anything,
just go through clip.
Yeah, I will just pull it up and whatever's featured to me, I'll do. Or TikTok is the For You page. Like that's the kind of way I consume media. So I come across stuff. Hey, did you see this guy? I saw that Rogan was on Flagrant 2. I saw a highlight clip of it. I'm very much into the like thumbnail, title, and the way they bait me. That's all geared at me. That's the kind of user I am. And I've been thinking to myself, man, like I was talking to my brother-in-law and some other people, and you're an example of this, where you're like watching entire series of television and getting at least artistically exposed to what they're trying to do on the whole, on either a whole episode or you watch all this series. I saw that whole series, and you are getting better art, I think, in terms of quality control and experience than I am. Because I'm probably wasting as much time, but what I'm doing is just sporadically going through all these different things like candy, fast food, and just...
But what you get out of it is you have an eye now for a clip, like the art of the clip.
Of course.
Right.
I don't know if it's better or worse, but what you're saying is certainly true. You get something out of watching an entire Impulsive episode with an interesting guest that you don't get with a short, but you do develop a certain sensibility because I'm making this stuff, so that's why it appeals to me.
Yeah.
Like these short little clips because I'm also doing it, so maybe that's why I'm also, but it's just the way I am, maybe a little bit more ADD, like I like a quick laugh and a quick thing and a this and that, but like with stand-up sets, back to the art of wasting time in a better way. Like I'm just way backlogged on things I wanna watch.
Yeah.
There's a stand-up special I wanna watch. There's this show I wanna watch. What happens is when you spend so much time in this short form drivel of just constant, you're missing entire things. Right. Everyone's like, you should watch Obi-Wan. I heard it's awesome. I'm like, I'm not a Star Wars guy, but I heard the series is done really well. So I said to myself the other day after a whole like YouTube binge of shorts, like, man, maybe that last hour would have been better spent watching a really good episode of something.
I think so. I don't think it's objectively better, but it does make your brain feel a little bit better.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying if it's all escapism anyway, watch a nice interview, a nice episode, a nice thing in its entirety to its completion with an arc.
Right. I guess like you're getting pure promotion. Like all you're getting all what those people want you to see. And like I think where the learning happens more is like in between those moments. Like I don't watch it as a chore. I watch it because like I legitimately enjoy watching Logan Paul ask his guest a question and then go down on his phone and go like that. Like I'm like that's fascinating that Logan Paul does that.
I just think you're sitting down to a meal and I'm eating fast food constantly. It's not that they're different. They're both food.
Yeah.
One isn't promotion because I'm watching entertainment, but it's basically like quick fix. It's like, when you're traveling and you're just eating only candy and snacks, eventually you just feel like shit. But you're eating a nice meal and you're taking your time with it. You're like cooking it. You're watching it. It's sort of like we're consuming similar things, but very different ways, and you're getting a different thing out of it.
But
You're getting a different kind of nourishment.
no, but we're both eating fast food. I guess I'm just like I don't think the quality of it is that different, but I think it does something to your brain when you're only training your brain to look for the highlights. Like I only want the good bites. I only want the good bites. I don't want the last little bite of the like. It does something to your eyes where like that's all you want to see.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what it's okay. You're eating a gourmet burger. I'm eating a McDonald's burger.
No. But I'm saying I'm also eating the McDonald's burger. You're just like cutting out the middle, so you don't have to eat like the crust. But there's a difference to the experience of getting through the crust. But like, it's not like I'm healthier than you are.
But you're also having fries and a drink and a smoothie. How far can we take this analogy? I don't know. We know what we're saying.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
And I just think it's more like how you feel when you're done with it versus how I feel when I'm done with it. I certainly laughed and got entertained and escaped, but I also feel like, ooh. Right. And I feel longing. I don't think you long to watch the short clips I'm watching. I am longing for content where I get a real sense of something. There's a lot of specials that just keep, like, comedy specials is a good example of like I definitely love it, but I'm watching clips of stand-up and I don't get a sense of somebody's act. So I'm not exposing myself, I don't think, to a healthy dose of creative nutrition.
Especially with comedy, you have to learn how like the whole like you said, the whole act leads. It's all one piece.
I think everything we've spoken about that we both like, I'm Not Norm or this and that, I've seen it in clip form and you've maybe seen it in longer form. And I think you get a certain value out of that you don't get. Maybe what you're saying is I get a sense of how to create these things in ways that work.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I can create a good short reel, nice and snappy.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
But for me as a consumer of these things, what I think as a creative, it's just as important to create and to consume. Because like you're feeding your inspiration a little bit. And when you do it too much on this quick fix stuff, like I think if I watched the entire series of, you're not going to like this example, but Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, as opposed to a highlighted clip of him sitting with Bill Burr in a coffee shop, great clip. But if I watched the whole episode, and instead of for every clip I watched a full episode of it, it might be better for me in terms of nourishing my creativity and intrigue and curiosity. And for every Tim Dillon clip I've seen, I've actually watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the time argument doesn't work because I spend as much time on like 70 short clips versus one singular long episode.
I wonder if at some point there's going to be like a job function of like they'll pitch Comedian in Cars Getting Coffee and say like, we're not going to waste our time with all the B-roll of like the outside of the car, the inside. Like, let's just get 15 minutes of them talking in the car and put it up on YouTube. Like, that is the show. Why not?
Because you can't.
Why not?
Edit it that way. The reason they get these good clips is from a long shoot.
No, I'm saying they do the shoot, but there's a difference.
Well, they just put out clips.
Yeah, they just put out clips, but they're also not wasting time with like, let's get them walking into the restaurant. Like, it takes time to set that stuff up, and like, let's get an intro of the car and outside, inside, and do a little thing, and like that all takes time and money. But, like get in the car, start talking. We're gonna chop it up. Don't worry about it. No one wants to see all that bullshit anyway.
Oh, I think the B-roll is beautiful. A good YouTube video and vlog is beautiful. It's beautiful.
Oh, part of the clip is you need that.
Part of the clip might be you need that, and I think the way you get these, it's a sculpture. Like you need to start with the stone.
But you don't need to shoot all of it.
I don't know, because you sometimes get the best things, like the happy accidents.
Yeah.
You shoot and you edit it down.
Yeah.
People's attention spans, that's a whole different thing. Yeah. Where it's like, where things are at now is pretty remarkable in terms of like how people consume things in these 30 to 60 minute forms.
Well, Tim Dillon also said I mean, you said with like Schultz, like, sorry, what were you saying about 30 to 60 minute forms? I just interrupted you.
I was just saying that I'll be watching a 60-second video and I'll be like, how long is this video? Oh man, it's under a minute. It'll catch me of how everyone knocks it, like, everyone's attention spans and all this kind of crap, where, back in the day it was 26-minute sitcoms. That's all we watched. It was these long chunks with commercials.
Yeah.
So I'm just always struck by what's available to us in 7 second, 15 second, 30 second. I mean, this is an obvious generic point everyone makes about the internet now, but everyone knocks it as like, oh, there's no attention span anymore. There's none of this, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. It's just that, like you're saying, there's a specialty in just short form stuff. I'm making this VCon blog, and before I said I'm going to make this whole thing a vlog, which I am going to do. But if I waited to do that, then I'd be like so slow on the rollout of the other stuff. So I'm starting with just clips in sequence, which is telling me the story. And it is telling a story, but I'm doing it now with TikTok, which means every clip ends with stay tuned for part 5, part 6, as opposed to one 10-minute vlog.
Right.
And I'm just struck by that feels like the right thing to do. It feels like the way it's connecting is the proper way.
Well, you introduced me to this world of Instagram, TikTok, Reels, which is the world. I mean, like people who comment on our Reels have no idea of who, especially me. Like I think it's a lot of your fans, but like they think I'm like a leftist. Like a leftist, anti Joe Rogan, like vegan.
They think you bombed the Pentagon.
Yeah.
They think you were like Bill Ayer's protege.
Yeah, they have no understanding at all because just they watch these 30-second clips.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's
too.
a way people consume. You're making a great case for Quibi. You remember? You know Quibi?
Failed.
The way you talk about it though is like if I heard you talk of like this, and then I heard a bunch of 13-year-olds talk about this the way I watch TV, I'd be like, Quibi sounds like a great service. Like we want 7-minute shows. We don't want a 26-minute show.
And why did Quibi fail? I remember in talks at the time about it, like getting involved with Quibi and making stuff for it, and it never. It was Katzenberg.
Yeah. It failed because no one was downloading the app. It seemed like no one wanted a 7-minute show. But maybe they were too early. Maybe in 5 years, people actually will want 7-minute TV shows.
We've seen before, right, that like something strikes and you're like, there was actually a lot of ideas and seedlings for this at the time that didn't break at the right intersection of whatever.
Like when all these teenagers and adolescents come of age and they're like, I have $10 a month to spend. I'm like out of college. Like maybe they're going to want a 7-minute show.
Or maybe all these kids that grew up on TikTok and Instagram are not only come of age, but are making stuff. Their shows will all be 7 minutes long.
That's a good point. Right. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Where they're like, if a 12-year-old now will make comedians a reboot of Comedian Cars Getting Coffee, they're gonna think of it as like, why put it all together in a 30-minute thing? Let's put it out. What's the point?
Who knows? Well, I think maybe the problem with Quibi is it was made by people who didn't grow up with short form. Could be. Meaning they were like, let's try to tackle this to appeal to an audience in a world we don't understand.
Right.
So our storytelling doesn't work.
Right. Well, the argument against it was like, there's nothing better on Quibi than a TikTok that was free for someone to make. Like every TikTok is better than the shows you're bringing with TikTok on Quibi. That was the argument against it. Like if you have 7 minutes, go to TikTok. You're gonna enjoy it more.
Right.
Don't watch. What do you have to watch? Like
original series.
Yeah, whoever.
Yeah, just some original,
like some
contrived
celebrity, putting together a 7-minute thing.
What I think Jordan Peterson has spoken about is that you have two things existing at the same time: the surge in short form content and limited attention span having mass appeal, and
do it. It's okay. You can do it.
I'm not going to do a Jordan Peterson. And the rise of Joe Rogan being the #1 podcast in the world, and it's 3 hours long, but it has clips too.
Yes,
I think most people don't watch full episodes of Joe Rogan.
I think he said that.
Right.
I think he said that.
Yeah.
Well,
Michael, we are about at time.
Yeah.
It was a productive conversation.
This was fun. This was lovely.
It was lovely.
Thank you for. I should say that you took the feedback very well. And you didn't get defensive, and much love, much respect, props.
I'm just doing this for the zoom in on me.
It's
for the end of this episode, right to my eyeball. Buckle up, episode 32 and counting. Right?
Yes, a very special episode.
A handshake. We'll see you next week. Right?